My inspiring guest for today is Jayanthi Sankar. She is a lover of fiction, both in writing and reading. Jayanthi enjoys expanding her creative world. While living in her fictional world, most of the time she interacts with the characters she forms and shapes. So writing a novel is more of a process that she truly lives and loves, and she's all into experimenting, especially in her storytelling. Also a watercolor hobbyist, she has been a freelancer for 2 decades with 3 years of experience in journalism. Born and brought up in India, she's the author of 3 books, and she has been living in Singapore since 1990. Jayanthi, welcome to the space.
Yes, thank you, Hollis. It's great to be with you again after the trial session. And I've been going through your website all the time, whenever I get the time. And I must say, truly impressed how much you're doing, putting your time and effort into this cause. It's lovely to be one of the guests in your show. Thank you so much for that.
Oh, you are so kind. I so appreciate you. And I cannot wait to share more of who you are with my audience. So,
Yes.
reading the tiniest bit about you, can you please tell us a little bit more about yourself?
I'm a simple person, nothing, in fact, I'm more of an introvert. Even me becoming a writer wasn't even expected during my formative years. Um, I was so quiet. All the processings were within me. I never expressed, never verbalized. But during the mid 90s, some magic happened which transformed me. A critic was unexpectedly blooming inside me after my years of reading. And I think that's when I thought I should try. I mean, is it so difficult to write? Let me try how difficult it is. That was all when I tried one short story that opened a wide door of creativity for me. And 27 years now, I'm very happy. So creativity is, yeah, everyone has, right? Creativity is so instinctive, and every one of us have creativity. But whether we pursue it consciously or are we leaving it, because of the fast-paced world, that's where we all differ, right? When we consciously follow our instinctive creativity, we tend to create really wonders that can be shared with others, I think. Yes.
Okay, I'm going to stop you right there because we're going to dive
Sure.
in a minute, and this is going to be a beautiful conversation. And
Yes.
I'm really looking forward to learning more about who you are as a person and your journey. But before we do all that, let's do our would you rather question.
Yes.
And then we'll dive into the first official question. So,
Yes.
Jayanthi, would you rather swim with dolphins or turtles?
Oh dear. Dolphins.
Me too. Why do you say that?
Maybe because I can really hold on to it very well, and I can see the face and the winds. And in turtles, they are too small. I might hinder the turtles swimming. Here I can, and of course, we all love to watch the turtle. I mean, sorry, the dolphin. And yes, and if yeah, love it. Even to watch the dolphins.
I know. I have never met a person who doesn't smile when they see a dolphin. I think it's physically impossible.
Yes, they are so adorable. Yes,
They are. They're like when we've been on the beach and all of a sudden the
yes.
dolphins are like jumping out of the water. Everybody stops and points and they're like dolphins and they're
And,
just
and, and
smiling.
you know what? I sometimes wonder, do they know we are watching? They do it so beautifully, gracefully, and I always wonder, they must be able to sense someone is watching, let me dance. So,
Because there's a performing, because they say their brains, and if I'm wrong on this, I could be wrong on this, but they say that their brains are that of maybe that of a 5-year-old or something like that. So there is the intelligence when they know that they have an audience. So
yes.
yes, so there we go. So I am totally on board with you there for the dolphins as well. So moving on to the first official question is, how do you define creativity?
It's my inner experience, at least for me, of dreaming and imagining, which normally triggers newer ideas in me. My intellect rips itself from its routine, to go on a fun spree, and I call that creativity rather than the end product or the output, which I may term it later as art. While the result, yes, can be important because I can share it with others, giving it a form, but I value more the process and the, ineffable joy it leaves behind in me, and all the wishful thoughts, revolutionary, even sometimes crazy ideas come during that time. And it, like I said before, it's so instinctive, and we can, but one thing is that creativity is not taught or learned, right? We all know. And just being open-minded, observant, and calm in my own way can initiate creativity in me. What works for me need not have to work for the other, but what I can teach and learn are the craft parts of that can turn the creative impulse into an art. It is my way of finding myself constantly and continuously interacting with myself to entangle all the cobwebs and the countless complex thoughts, aligning them systematically. And subsequently, I get to share them with others through my creative writings or paintings even. And we can't deny the fact that humanity has not yet clearly defined what creativity really is. That's my opinion, primarily because it can only be so subjective, and its understanding keeps changing. The yardsticks keep shifting. All that comes under creativity in this era need not come under creativity a decade later, right? It becomes the norm later on over a period of time. And I remember during my mid-20s, shunning all the, like I said, I've always been an introvert. So I was shunning away my resistance or inhibitions, and I started getting more accommodative to all the surrounding chaos in my life. And that's when I started enjoying that, what was happening in me, the creativity. When I started creating in my mind, it increased over time because I knew the taste of it, and it came only after that churning of inhibitions. And the beginning happened only because of my continuous reading, which expanded my mind, over the years. And basically my journey as a writer wasn't even expected. Like I said, I didn't show any sign of writing till then. And I still am quite surprised how I'm still here for 27 years. I didn't have any expectations out of life. I didn't set any goals, even the fundamental ones, I mean, it might sound unbelievable to many, but those who know me for quite some time, long enough, like my close friends and siblings, they would know what I mean here because they know me. So all of us have senses, right? And therefore we see, observe, feel, admire the world. So we are all creative, right, Hollis? So yes, that's what I would say creativity is in my perspective.
You said so many incredible things, and looking back, I write as people speak because it's a way that I process. So So
okay.
I can really hold on to what was said. And where you said creativity is an inner experience of dreaming, of imagining.
Mhm.
And rather than the end product, it's the process, but then also the forming and the shaping of the ideas, bringing
Yes,
it to form.
yes,
There's so much beauty, I think, in that, with just the reinforcing this imagining, and because each of us is unique, and we could be both looking at the same thing but imagining something different as we're looking at that thing. and
precisely.
and the end product, that is something that's so beautiful of what that actually is. I've had so much experience, and I know you have too. We're going to dive into more about your background with journalism and all these other aspects, but
Yes,
especially like being an art teacher for so long and all these just different spaces of working with people, is that
yes,
it was stressed about the process, that do not worry. Yes, it's certain things, it's just about the process, and other things, yes, we are working towards creating a visual of some kind, but it's still in that process that you get to it, because that's where it's never a straight line. There's a lot
yes.
of curves and zigzags and broken
Lots of
lines.
craziness, lots of indisciplined process. That's where creativity lies, and we can always sort it out later. Bring some real shape to it, some artistry to it. I believe so. Even in text, we just go let loose and write. Editing comes later. Similarly, for ideating a painting or something, the basic idea is good enough, and then just go about. And there are several layers of painting that we will be doing, and we can get into a good shape. Creativity mostly is impulsive, I think.
I love where you just said, wow, okay. I love that you said that creativity is an indisciplined process,
It should be.
because
Then it
that
is natural.
it's natural. You hear that, everybody? Oh my gosh. Yes. Yes, because when it's a difference between being in our head and being in our heart. Because when we are in our head, we're over analyzing, and that's when we
Yes,
often get
exactly.
stuck. Like, we're not going anywhere when we're
Yes,
way too
yes,
up here.
yes.
But
So don't set any parameters, don't set any rules, just let go.
because there was no expectations and no goals for you to be a writer, like you
Yes,
said. And here you
yes.
are 27 years later, you weren't the class writer, you weren't told that you were, because you were, as you said, introverted, you were quiet. It was inside here, but there was a lot going on inside here
Yes,
until you finally felt that you were, maybe you'll tell me if I'm using the right words, until you felt that you were worthy enough or ready to bring it out. Would that be correct,
uh,
or no?
mm, the short story I said that I tried was more to, when I was reading a short story, mm, I felt I'm missing something there. Am I missing out? And I went on reading again and again. The third time, I was, reconfirming to myself that it wasn't worth publishing in print, which is widely read. But soon, the instant I thought of that, uh, it took me a second to sense a voice coming from within saying, have you ever even tried writing even an essay? How can you even criticize what you haven't even tried? That was the trigger for me to try a short story out of a silly early morning dream that I had. And it got published. Even then, I didn't believe I could write. It took me another maybe 1.5 years and another 10 more short stories before I really started believing that, yes, I have it in me. I should pursue. Till then, I thought it was just an accident. I wanted to find out how difficult it was to write. but I ended up liking it. I ended up pursuing it, but still the confidence came only later on, Hollis. So that was the but I didn't know these things. Only, normally that's the case, right? After 10 years, when I was sitting and, reflecting, this is what happened. I realized. So it wasn't like anything planned, or I was, um, you know, finding out which I didn't find out. In a way, yes. In a way, yes. I was rediscovering myself. But then again, I didn't know it was there in me. That critic, which, he was born after a few years of intense reading. Again, even for reading, I didn't have any agenda, or I didn't have any guidance. I didn't have any plans, just for the pleasure of reading anything and everything. Of course, slowly I came to a point where I could know these are the authors I normally like. These are the authors I must try. All that I came to know, but then that 5 years of reading was what brought me to that phase, and the critic pulled out that right out of me. So yes, that was the process, Hollis. And even now, when I think back, I don't know if, as if I'm reading out of a novel, a person's, a woman's evolution or rediscovery. That's what I feel. It feels so distant. It feels so something that happened to someone, because it's 27 years back. And I didn't even know what was happening to me.
Right.
But that was what happened, and it's so beautiful to even, I'm so grateful that happened.
Well, you were willing to be part of the process. You were willing to be open to
Yeah,
it,
exactly.
because going back to you had no expectations and no goals. So
Yes.
in that, which leaves a blank canvas per
Yeah.
se. But
Yeah.
I want to kind of touch on this aspect of the journalism, which I know didn't bring you joy, but I know the journalism fit in at some point before
Yes.
or around this. So if you can kind of tell us about the journalism, the freelancing, and to where you are now.
Oh, yes. Because my boys were growing up and I didn't want to leave them alone and go to a full-time job. So I tried, you know, um, teaching children, home tutoring. They come for extra, those parents who are worried about their grades or something, they send them to me. That went on for 5 to 6 years, early 90s. And after 5 to 6 years, I concluded that I didn't enjoy teaching. I did it, yes. I didn't conclude after a year or two. It was after 6 years. And what I did very well. They were all so happy, parents and children, yes. But did I like it? Did I want to go on? No. So that's when I thought, I have a skill. I'm a bilingual person. My mother tongue is Tamil, and of course, English is my medium of education. And so these are the two strengths I have, and these two pairs I'm capable of translating. So what I did was, those days, the internet and the Google was just emerging, evolving, but I still went online and got to know a few agents, small companies, private agents, who do the outsourcing of translation works. They get it from bigger companies. They have a pool of translators, and that's when I just tried again with no foundation or no proper certificate for translation, nothing, and no guidance. Simply some instinct. I just tried. I just emailed. They gave me tests, each of them, and I ended up within 3 years, I ended up working for 7 to 8 such companies. They included me in their pool of translators, and whenever they have it, they give. When this was building, I just stopped the tutoring part of it. And even today, after 21 years, I'm still into freelance. As for journalism, when was it? 2012. Yes, 2012. I thought, okay, I'm doing so much of work from home. Yes, it helped me. The boys have grown now. So I can try going full time outside, see the world more of the office setup and all. And again, I just simply tried, and I got into a newspaper as a sub-editor, and it went on for 3 years. And I liked it in the sense the work culture, or the people around, interacting with so many people, juggling home and office, and traveling. And I got to walk more. Yes, we all go to walk in the evenings, and then brisk walk, this and that. But it was compulsive and working, right? We go to work, we have to walk. And I thought it helped me in my health, and maintaining the body weight and all. What I didn't like was I don't know if I can use that word, the news writing is fake. My heart kept telling me it's so artificial. Yes, there was an accident, there was an incident, but there are so many perspectives to it. My heart went always onto the human side of it, never the legal or the political side of any article, any incident, or any accident. And I didn't like it. I had to write that. I had to write what was required. I couldn't write what I wanted to write. This I didn't like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's when I realized fiction writing is where I belong. And that's where I can write what I want to write. Yes, that was experience in journalism I had.
And that was for 3 years, did you say?
Yes, 3 years, 2012 to 2015.
So what's really interesting to me in your progression is, so there was the reason you wanted to stay at home because you wanted to be with your boys,
Yes.
and you were working, so you were able to kind of have that balance in that way. And then
Yes.
the translating, I really appreciated what you said in that you kind of went with your instinct and
Yes.
what skills you had, and
Yeah.
you didn't maybe do the official schooling per se, but you did. It just made me think of, so my son is bilingual. He speaks Spanish, and he learned from his friends, and he had taken Spanish classes, but that's not where he learned it. He learned it by being immersed, and he has all of the inflection, so I bring it up because we kept saying to him, this is a skill you have. And at one point it was thought that he was going to get translating experience, but fast forward a few years, he's now been hired to a job recently where he's the only person he's like a project manager, and he's the only project manager that speaks Spanish when all of the employees in that space speak Spanish. So,
my younger son, who is working in Citibank, is having the same kind of a situation. He speaks Mandarin, and he's the only person who speaks Mandarin. And some of the interviewers, when he's applying for other jobs,
yeah.
So they say they're Chinese, but they will say you speak better than me.
That's That's amazing.
And when they ask, do you write and read? Yes, if I get another birth time, I will. Yeah.
It's just, I bring it up because I just really like, again, there's so much in the thread of what you're saying is that you went with your instincts. Like instincts is a really big part of things. So then here in your 3-year stint with journalism, you like these aspects of it, but then it was the whole artificial aspect. So hear from your
Yes.
heart. So I totally understand when it gets to that point where you're like, that's not what I want to be reporting, or that's not what I want to be saying. I want it to be authentic to me.
Yes.
And the storytelling. So in whatever that looks like, it was like that for me in the classroom. So
Yeah.
tell me, so, okay, so now you have been an author, you have been writing and publishing for 27 years. So you are fiction, right? Fiction writer?
Yes. 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 Yes.
Yeah. So tell us, before we go into the second question, tell us a little bit more about some of the books that you've written.
Oh, yes. The latest novel is Tabula Rasa. You know, right? It's a Latin phrase that says clean slate, without any preconceived notion. It refers to the mind, that is something like newborn baby, which has no influence of the external world. So pure and fresh, newly born. That kind of a mindset is called tabula rasa. And I gave that name to my novel, the latest one, which is about Singapore, 200 years of Singapore history that I'm covering on that. It's a historical fiction. And of course, there is a contemporary thread that goes intertwining with the historical. So that's the novel. And the previous novel was Misplaced Hits. And yes, the Tabula Rasa is male centric. I did it purposely. I made my protagonist and my main characters males, men, and it was challenging because I had to think of like a man, and I had to do more research on the male psychology wherever I had doubts. But the previous one was Misplaced Heads, was female centric, feminine and feministic. And therefore it had many women characters. Naturally, it happened like that. And I wanted to break that pattern that was setting. And that's why I chose Tabula Rasa to be something different from the previous. I had to make it, you know, I had to give importance to the male characters. And it helped me because I was speaking about migrations of the earlier times, and most of the men migrated those times, and it suited me very well. Whatever I had in my mind, my backdrop and the theme and the plot really helped me achieve that. So those are the two novels. The first one was Dangling Gandhi, as you can see there in my next. So Dangling Gandhi, Misplaced Heads, and Tabula Rasa. So the Dangling Gandhi is a collection of 12 short stories, more Asian or Southeast Asian, and most of them are historical. About 4 or 5 out of the 12 are, of course, the contemporary themes. So these are the 3 books, you know, I've published. And of course, I've done a few, I've contributed to anthologies, and I've done a few anthologies. These are my 3 personal books.
So I'm curious about, so your most recent one, which you said the characters were male centric. In your process, do you interview, were you interviewing men?
Yes,
to understand the mindset?
Yes. Basically, we live in a world where we're all surrounded by men and women, and we keep seeing, we have men in our lives. My husband and my 2 grown-up sons, I see them, how different and how similar they can be at times. And we all know how male psychology and the female psychology work. It's not that we don't know, but yet when we write in specific knots and thought processes, we have to double check, right? Especially when the character is a little weird, if I may say,
Yeah.
or depressed or undergoing some anguish, psychological disorders or something, then I have to check, which I did. As for the historical part of it, this novel has been within me for 10 to 12 years before I wrote. It shaped and shaped and shaped. It gathered flesh and blood on it, on the skeleton, all the way before I wrote. And of course, naturally, I read a lot and I gather information about Singapore, and I go deliberately research for some essay or something. I come across something, oh, this I can't use in the essay that I'm researching for, but it is going to help me. I note down the page number, the book, the call number of the library, the branch, and everything in the. So when I started writing, I went for those books. I researched more on them, and I had one elderly Chinese gentleman in the old house when we were living in another place. He used to live in the same block. He's quite old, as old as my father, maybe. So whenever he saw me, I don't know whether he's alive now because he was a little frail in that time. So he used to, get so childlike, and he used to share with me his childhood when earlier Singapore, when the Japanese occupied, when it was under the colonial rule, those times, his school life and his cousins behind, war of prison, prisoners of war, prisoners of war, and those experiences he used to share with me. And I used to listen just like a, 4-year-old who's who is listening to his mother reading bedtime stories. That's all. Nothing. I didn't have any idea of what it is going to do in me, but it did. I didn't know then. I was only listening to what he was sharing. More because he was so happy sharing. But I realized I listened to him so well that all those stayed in me. And they came out when I started writing these novels. And where did I get that from? I get surprised, and then I realized those are those. And of course, I did talk to many migrant workers, and those all I did for the novel. Yes.
But what, oh my God. I love how you describe, this is how everybody knows you're a writer. Your descriptive words. You basically said at one part, your novel has been in you for 10 years, and it took time to build the flesh and blood on the skeleton. Oh my God. Do you hear those descriptive words, everybody? I think it's just so important to reinforce that, is that, and it kind of goes back to this theme of not having expectations.
Yes.
It was brewing inside of you. There was something inside of you.
Yes.
You were listening to these stories. You were observing. You were taking the time to kind of let it sink in. And that's just kind of when things gel and take shape. I like see it as a sculpture. It's just like these words and images start to take shape. And then all of a sudden it's like, this is a book, or this is whatever it is. In your case, it's like, this is a story, this is a book. And because I've been hearing it for a while, and you get that butterfly feeling in your stomach where you're like, yes, this is so exciting.
Yeah, of course.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so let's find out a little bit more about you as a person and how you incorporate more creativity into your own life. How do you do that besides your writing?
Yes, anything we do, even mundane jobs like cooking and cleaning, that is out in our routine, sometimes we find ourselves suddenly getting creative, right? That happens also to me. And also when I take my brushes, be it watercolor, or recently I've started liking palette knife, acrylic. I love it. I don't know how well I am bringing out a painting, but I know the process is giving me so much joy, and I'm going to explore more on that. But creativity is the source of my writing and painting, right? I have tuned my mind to be more open. That's the strength many people find in me, and I know also for sure that open-mindedness is what is creating many magical moments and creative moments, right? And watching my thoughts leads me to memorable creative process. And I've always observed my mental activities at the conscious level also often works at the subconscious level. You know, disrupted thoughts re-emerge after some time in my mind, and flashes of continuous thoughts at the alpha state of my sleep, lucid dreams. And I have, especially when I'm into a novel, I'm writing chapters, I'm forming the knots and the character arc. I have noticed um, when I'm about to sleep, especially because it's always there in my mind, I'm interacting with that character or not. So when I'm about to sleep, I'm not yet sleeping, and that is when I get brilliant flashes of creativity. And so that's when I start using a sheet of paper and a pencil. I leave them beside my pillow. Even I don't have to switch on the light or anything. I just have to take, even in the darkness of the night, I would just scribble a word or a phrase, and that's enough for me to recollect in the morning. And if I don't do that, I lose it. I know I will lose it. A word or childlike scribbling, you know, the scribbling of a child. That's how it would be, because I'm half asleep. I'm getting I'm catching the flash, just scribbling, and this have helped me in many ways.
So does it keep you awake though? Do you get excited and you
once I note down,
yeah,
I can sleep well. I will instantly fall asleep. If I don't note down, then I am unable to sleep. On the other hand, I might also increase the chances of losing that flash of an idea. And this always happens when I'm into a novel writing. So this is one thing I have learned, that I must leave a paper and a pencil beside my pillow. And people find me sometimes, yeah, weird. Yes, I
I wouldn't say you're weird, but
no, because when you deliberately try, creativity doesn't happen. When you leave yourself open, your mind, and it blooms. And especially when you're really writing the chapters, the scope is still going deeper, and we won't know when it can happen, you see.
yeah.
So what I think is, it's a individual, the brain's play, the intellect playing, you know. And I've observed, you know, the creative people are mostly not OCD. They are so fairly accommodative to the chaos around, right? I have if someone is too disciplined, too OCD, this cannot be there. That can, then they are hindering the creativity that can happen.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
because they are setting rules all the time.
Yes. Yeah. It's funny that you say that, because yes, I completely agree. And that's where my creativity gets blocked, when I find myself fixating on something.
Yes.
And I'm fixating, and it's just again and again, and I'm analyzing it from all these different angles. And that's when I have to wake my husband up when he's asleep, and I'm like, I've been thinking. He's like, oh shit, she's been thinking. like that's can you let me sleep? I'm like, I have to now. Gratefully, my kids are old enough where I can talk it to them and they can either tune me out and just let me talk, or they'll respond so I don't have to wake him up. I'm like, just let me get it out of my system. I realize it's annoying. It's not serving me, but it has to get out of my system for somebody to say, shut the hell up, Hollis, or listen and give me feedback. Like something needs to happen throughout this process.
Yes, very correct. So I think we should let some eccentricity in us. Let that be. So that only can give some room for the creativity to happen. If you're going to go on, setting rules, following rules, ensuring rules are followed, then I think that's why I said OCD people are missing out on creativity.
Yeah. I could always tell when I co-owned a clay studio and we would do a workshop, and I always, and no offense to anybody who's listening, but I could always tell the person that would ask for a ruler. Like when we were working with clay,
Okay.
at least in the beginning process, there was always somebody somewhere that was like, do you have a ruler that I can use? And never denied them the ruler. It's like they need the ruler for that time in order to measure correctly in there and to feel more comfortable before they can get to that space where they don't need the ruler.
Yes, very correct. Yes. Yeah. I can understand.
So it's,
yes.
yeah. And then it can kind of flow. And sometimes the ruler then does create the space for the creativity because certain things need to be a certain dimension and a parameter needs to be kind of set in that way. But it was just interesting because there was always that personality that as soon as they walked in the door, in my head, I'm thinking they're going to need a ruler for at least the beginning stages. And then an hour in, we're going to chill out a little bit more.
Yeah.
Because it's control. It's like this control issue of whatever the medium is.
Yes, when there is a ruler needed, yes, it should be given because it's a learning process of a technique, a craft. But in that process, if you're going to say, don't let your clay go up here, don't let your clay be on your face, don't stay, don't disturb the makeup that you're on. No, that's what I mean. Let it be all over. Let it be, Even for the children, when you teach, it should be the case. Yeah.
Exactly. And with adults, I found especially on the potter's wheel, there was kind of this fascination of getting dirty, which was necessary. And some really enjoyed the process, some were more hesitant, but then just with the clay, really understanding that it is very much of where you are in your mental state is how the clay will act. So if you feel scattered, if you feel ungrounded, all over the place, you're not going to be able to center that clay. It's just going to take you all over the place on the potter's wheel before you can open it up. But if you're kind of like, if you can hold your ground, if you can set your arms down, if you can kind of control the clay in a sense, then the clay will be like, okay, I won't take advantage.
It's such a metaphor for life. I think the whole life itself is that water. That's how I'm instantly thinking. It's a metaphor for life, how humans live life, how humans can get to know life and live the life. So it's so beautiful when you explained.
Well, thank you. It's these observations that we have where it's just a gift when you have the awareness, to be able to observe and not judge it. It's finding honestly not judging it.
Yes. The moment you start judging, your mind is slowly closing. Then there is no acceptance. Then there is no room for any expansion or extended thinking. And therefore, the creativity is also kind of crippled,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. Because it's so small. It's like in this little box. There's too many, like you said in the beginning, there's too many rules. Mm. Whew. Good stuff. So,
Thank you.
so good. So as we're getting to the top of the hour, we have our third question, which kind of wraps it up and puts a nice little bow on it, which is, why do you think creativity is important?
Creativity brings life, meaning, zeal, purpose, to my life, I think, to anybody's life. It can illuminate my inner being, chasing away the darkness that often tries to enter me, because we all have that kind of moments, right? The depressive, or when we hear about depressive things, we are affected, So I redeem myself from such moments only through creativity, indulgence in painting or reading. Reading by itself is creative, it can be, because the novelist means something and I perceive it differently, but the text is the same. So that creativity comes there also. People might think writers only are creative, readers are creative in their own ways.
I
So that's
love
why.
it. Yeah. Say, finish your, yeah. That's why.
Yeah, that's why, even my writing is such, it has abstractness to it. I leave it purposely so that my readers can participate in the reading. And so my novel begins in me, continues in the reader, and each reader continues it in his or her own way. That's the beauty of the creativity happening in me, and later the creativity is happening in my readers. So it's the creativity, whatever impulses I have in creative realm in me, all of them I'm not translating into paintings or texts. They are so much more, only some of them. So, and I think I don't have to bring everything out. Some people, aspiring authors, writers, they are thinking everything they think they have to write, whatever they write, they have to publish. It's not that way. Whatever I'm creating here, I don't even write 1/4 of what I'm creating here into words. And whatever I'm writing, I'm not even publishing 1/10 of it. It is not always necessary that you always publish or do bring into some tangible form whatever you're creating here. It's not some project, it's always a process. Therefore, enjoy the process is what I always tell people. And I think it is any setting or circumstances that can initiate creativity in me. And that's why I go on long walks whenever I have time. Whenever I'm into chapter writing, I go for long walks into the, those nature reserves of Singapore. Alone, and that really can trigger my creativity into deeper levels. So I always think, should we make creativity compulsory to the humanity? Because the humans are chasing after money and technology and things. I always feel sad. Should we make it? Yes, of course, innovations are happening. Innovations are social. Creativity is personal, individual brain. So should we make creativity? But again, it might dry up the beauty of it and making it like a dry curriculum and all. So let's not do it. So then should we make it illegal so that people try it secretly, more and more people? I always ask this, should we make it illegal? Creativity is illegal. Don't try. Then people will try more. The people will explore. So what I always, feel is the multimedia, visual media, the technology, virtual world is helping us so much. On the other hand, the creativity part is actually in some way or the other becoming again, they are also, the creative processes are becoming mechanical, if I should say. So, so for me, a creative process should have human side to it, the human side to it, the rawness to it. That's what I love, and I go after that kind of creative processes. So I write predominantly Singapore fiction. So reading like an author, writing like a reader, reading and writing like a critic, or just reading and writing like an editor, all require creativity, I think. And these roles keep changing, a combination of those, with conscious effort when I'm working in a novel. But otherwise, it always happens. So the editor in me is always disturbing me when I'm writing my chapters. And I have to find creative ways to make her stay away when I'm really creating. So the creativity is always happening, see? So I have to coax her, come back later. This is not your time. You will, not now, not now. So, yes. So sky is the limit for creativity.
Oh my gosh. There's the creative ways to make the editor come back later. It's like this problem solving aspect of it. It's true. It's within every decision that we make. It's within every way that we decide to show up. It's all a process if we look at it that way. Like it's just, and I really appreciate how you talked about the writer creating the story from their aspect, and then the reader creatively reading and translating it in a way. Yes, the words are all there, but again, people are going to take it in a different way and process it in a different way. And I think, thank you so much for bringing that up, because there's so much beauty in that.
Yes. Because a reader might be a 30-year-old or a 70-year-old, and the reader's age and experience, exposure, and the reading experience by itself. A reader might have just started 2 years ago. Another reader might be reading for, say, 30 years. So the way they can see the text, consume the text will be different for everyone. And if a text, I always tell this also in my workshops, if a text is catering to everyone in the same way, then the text is a failure.
Yes, my head is like all over the place. Yeah.
Because they are telling all the time, they are not showing and not giving any scope for imagination in the reader.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. It's so interesting. My daughter, she has been into, I don't remember the name of the book, but there's kind of like a newer way of releasing books lately where they release chapters by chapters. So she'll read and then she's really excited for the next update. So it's kind of like this cliffhanger. So a certain amount of chapters are released and then left, and then she's just talking about it. She's like, oh, I can't wait. It's like a drop of chapters. Like, how is this going to continue? And I'm like, that's brilliant. It really is such a way of captivating the audience.
She will be imagining without her consciousness that this could be happening, that could be happening. She's already creative again.
Yes, 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 exactly right. It creates this whole aspect of, well, maybe this will happen and maybe that'll happen and maybe the characters will do this, until it's just, I was like, that is brilliant. Whoever decided to now introduce, maybe it's not so new per se, maybe they've been doing it for hundreds of years.
It has been there are so many years.
Yeah.
Since my childhood, I've known such a thing is happening. Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it just came more into my awareness. And oh my gosh. So as we are getting to the top of the hour, this has been such a fun conversation. I have learned so much from you and about you, and I so appreciate that, Jayanthi. Thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Hollis. Thank you so much for the opportunity.
I truly,
Let's keep in touch.
yeah, oh my gosh, I'm truly inspired and grateful. Can you please let everybody know how they can connect with you?
Yes, my Instagram handle is JAYANTHISANKAR 28. That's my Instagram.
Okay, is that the best way to reach you?
Yes, the other is my email, JEYANTHISANKAR
Mm-hmm.
28 @gmail.com.
Okay, wonderful. Wonderful. So before we say our official goodbyes, is there anything else that is on your mind that you want to share with everybody?
This topic that you gave me, I can go on talking for a whole day, or maybe continue the next day. But it was really wonderful, a great opportunity for me. So, and let's all keep our minds and heart open for all the creativity to happen. That's all I have to say.
I love that. That is the perfect way to end. And this space is all about inspiring, sharing, and connecting. So please like, follow, share so we can lift each other up. I believe we've always needed this, but I believe with my heart that we need it now more than ever. So wherever you are listening in the world, I wish you a good morning, a good afternoon, or a good evening. And we'll be talking to you soon. So goodbye, everybody.
Bye.